La la la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La la la.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ready, Set, Stream, Gilmore Girls Edition.
We're doing this.
We are doing this.
All right then.
So we are now up to Season 1, Episode 8 of the Gilmore Girls, which is titled Love and War and Snow.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
As you know, I'm shameless.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
we know this about you.
Well, I begged. I pleaded. But
Oh.
you know, yes, you know, people, you can still like, rate, subscribe, share, comment, and where we lead, you can definitely follow us at the
Yes,
links
indeed.
below.
Yes, indeed.
I feel like Jean-Luc Picard here, you know, on the USS Enterprise. Engage, people. Engage.
Engage.
Yeah.
Warp drive engage.
Warp speed. Full speed ahead.
Yes.
And let's go there. Shall we?
Let's get into it.
Yes.
All right, so we start off this particular episode with a bang, I would say, because we get a look at our very first town meeting in Stars Hollow. And these are a staple of the show. Classic. I love every single one of them. They are a hoot. So things are just my favorite
It just
thing.
grows on you as time goes on.
They really do. Things just blow up at these meetings, and you're just like, give me some popcorn and let me watch this go down.
Luke would say it's like a wart that he can't get rid of, though.
Right. But I love them. And so do Lorelai and Rory.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
It's quite the event.
But then again, they love drama, too.
Yeah.
So,
It's their form of entertainment.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this one starts off automatically with the newly introduced Taylor Dozy
Yeah.
up at the front talking with Patty, and he's making a comment about how no one is listening to him. Patty
Do they ever?
Well, we'll soon know, won't we? And Patty assures him that they can hear him, and he says he's being persecuted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this just kind of jumps you straight into the character that is Taylor Dozy.
When he doesn't get his way, he's
Uh-huh.
persecuted.
So
Why
somebody
doesn't anyone listen to me?
yeah.
Yeah.
So somebody actually stands up and says they've been hearing him for 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And Taylor's like, well, excuse me, Andrew, but some of us have businesses to run that don't involve peddling drug paraphernalia to kids. And Andrew says, it was a lava lamp, Taylor. And Taylor's like, there is no use for a lava lamp unless you're on drugs.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I don't know where he's getting
He's off in the clouds on that one.
Yeah, I don't know where he's
been
getting
smoking,
that.
puffing a little Magic Dragon there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So about that point, you see Lorelai coming in, and she is carrying food and drinks, and she slides into a seat next to Rory, and she's whispering, "What did I miss?" And Rory's like, "Taylor Dozy wants the no parking zone in front of his store removed. He says his customers are being unfairly ticketed." And
Play by play.
right. And Lorelai says, "No, it's just because he wants to park there all day." And Rory goes, "Genius." So Luke is also there, and he's sitting a couple rows up and to the right of them.
Yeah.
And he is looking very irritated.
Yeah, he's peeved
Yeah.
already. He's on
So
edge.
you see the mayor go up to the podium, and this is your first look at the mayor of Stars Hollow, but he kind of disappears in a few episodes, and then you never really see him again. And you just kind of see Taylor running the meetings from that point on. So you don't see much of this guy, maybe
Yeah.
2 or 3 episodes.
Speaking of him, Harry Porter is his character, played by David Huddleston. He's an Emmy-nominated actor, actually. You've probably seen him in Brian's Song, Blazing Saddles. I know him from The Big Lebowski.
I'm totally clueless about him. So
Yeah.
when we first saw this, you said, "Gosh, he looks familiar."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, it's not ringing any bells for me."
Yeah, as soon as I saw Big Lebowski, I was like, yeah, I remember who he
Okay.
was.
So he says, "I have been mayor of this fine town for a long time. I tend to think of all of you as my children. Unfortunately, sometimes children have to be disciplined. Now I'm going to say something, and I'm only going to say it once. We have leash laws, people." And Lorelai says, "Daddy's getting angry." And the mayor says, "Rover will not leash himself." And Rory says, good point. So just the fact their banter back and forth makes it quite clear how entertained they are by these town meetings.
Oh, yeah.
They've got food. It's like,
I mean,
like I said, it's like they pop popcorn and they're at a movie.
I mean, besides their little theater, which we'll talk about later, what other events do they have?
Well,
in a small town?
They've got all these little festivals
Yeah,
and stuff,
but other than that,
this is part
this
of
is
it.
a main event.
This
here.
is a main event.
Yeah.
So the mayor is announcing the anniversary of the legendary Battle of Stars Hollow, and Lorelai whispers, "Where's Luke?" And
they're,
Rory
they're
says,
preparing themselves.
"Yeah, they're definitely preparing themselves." And Rory says, "Right up there." And I just thought this was hysterical how much joy that these two apparently take in watching Luke's increasing discomfort. Because he's a sideshow and they're just so excited for him to go off.
He's like a volatile volcano ready to erupt. And this kind of reminds me like there are sports announcers like Bob Uecker. He takes the mound. He's winding up. He's delivering the pitch. Oh, it's just a bit outside.
And that is exactly what we're about to see in this particular scene. Exactly that.
Yeah.
The mayor, of course, mentions that someone will be coming around with a sign-up sheet for anybody wanting to participate in the reenactment. And Rory says, Luke's turning red. Lorelai goes, uh-oh. And the mayor says, all right, it was a frigid November night some 224 years ago. Lorelai says, he's shifting in his seat.
So this is a yearly thing with Luke.
Oh, yeah. And the mayor says, the brave Stars Hollow militia stood in wait for the redcoats. And Rory says, he's adjusting the cap. And Lorelai's just looking over in delight. You know, her eyes are sparkling. She's just waiting for this moment to happen. And the mayor says, tired and hungry, 12 proud men took their positions in the town square, braving the elements. Lorelai goes, he's fighting the urge. He's fighting the urge.
Here it comes.
And the mayor says, and imminent death in their valiant efforts. And all of a sudden, Luke bursts up out of his seat and says, oh, for God's sake, do we have to go through this every year? Yep. And Lorelai goes, yes.
Yep, just a bit outside.
Yeah, and Rory goes, and the urge wins by a long shot. And the two of them are just delighted.
Yeah.
But Luke
they squeal with joy.
Oh, gosh, yes, they love it. Luke and the mayor argue over the depth of the importance of Stars Hollow troops the night of the battle that never was. Yeah. Because according to Luke, they stood out in the cold snow, but no one ever showed up to fight.
For nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So Luke said 12 guys stood in a row all night waiting for an enemy that never showed.
Froze their keepers off.
Yeah, he said they got stood up. They should have been wearing prom dresses. Yeah. That line right there killed me. And Taylor and Luke start bickering over this, and Lorelai says to Rory, $5 says somebody ends up in a headlock. And Rory's like, you're on. So Luke is up there, and he's saying, have any of you ever considered the fact that you're glorifying a war we fought so we could keep land that we stole?
Good point, though.
And, well, honestly, it actually is a very good point. I thought it was a very interesting point because I've kind of always felt bad for the Native American people, the way they were treated. You know, they lived a very simple life. They lived off the land. They hunted, of course, but they used every single piece of the animal. You know, all of it went to survival. The meat, the skins, you know, everything went for survival. We came in, we disrupted their homes, left their buffalo butchered for their skins, just rotting in the dirt, and they all live on reservations to this day. I just think it's just an unfair shake, you know?
Just give them a casino, they'll be fine, they'll fix everything.
Yeah, that's not good enough for me.
Yeah, I have to agree with Luke on this point because
I do too.
Native Americans, they respected the earth.
Yeah.
They worked with it. Yeah, us, not so much. Ravaged their lands, drove them out. It's kind of like that Addams Family, you know, when Wednesday Addams was doing that little play, remember, where they ravaged our lands and you must pay for your sins against us.
Was that the Addams Family or Addams Family Values movie? First one or second one?
Second one, I think. Yeah, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, that is a good point. It just kind of also makes me think, if that had never happened and we had kind of come in as more of guests and, hey, can we figure out a way to coexist, and actually did manage to figure out a way to coexist, look at what we've done to the land.
Well, they were territorial, though, so I don't know if it would have worked either way.
Would the land be different today?
They were betrayed.
But would the land be different today if they had
worked together?
Still been a little bit more
cohesive,
of an equal?
Yeah,
I just wonder about that.
Makes you think.
So the next scene, we cut over, we're at Lorelai's house, and she wakes up in the middle of the night, walks downstairs to the living room, she opens up the window in the front room, takes a deep breath, she walks over and pushes play on the answering machine, brings it over to the couch with her because a message from Max is playing. And I will give Max Medina kudos on this one. At least this time he addressed the answering machine message to her.
Yeah.
Specifically, and it wasn't like to Rory and Owen, by the way, if your mom's listening.
Yeah.
You know.
He learned how to use the old codaphone there, the old answer machine.
Yes, he did.
Finally mastered it.
So, he's basically wondering if they're ever going to go out on a date. And, you know, she seems a bit giddy, you know, like she thinks it's a charming message. She listens to it a second time until Rory wakes up and come in, and she shuts it off real quick. Yeah. And Rory's about to close the window, but she tells her no, tells her to close her eyes and breathe. And then for the first time we hear the infamous line that's
iconic,
kind of synonymous with this show. Lorelai says, "I smell snow."
Yep.
So, I mean, that is Lorelai's line, and if anybody knows anything about Gilmore Girls, they're going to know that line.
Yeah, that's the one you remember most.
Scott actually, Patterson actually asks this of everyone that he interviews during his rapid fire questions on his podcast.
That's one of the staples.
And only 2 people, Shelley Cole, who plays Madeline on the show, and Scott Cohen, who plays Max Medina, have been able to smell snow so far. Everybody else has said no. Can you smell snow?
We get it so rare out here that, it has a distinct feel in the air, and you can definitely smell it, the change in the weather.
I can smell it. I can smell it before it's coming. When it's coming, I know when it's coming.
Yeah.
I can smell it before, during, and after. But here's another question for you. Can you hear it falling?
Yes.
I can hear
I
it
actually
falling.
go out and record it when we get those rare opportunities, and you can hear the little splat and it
but it's not a loud splat. It's
soft.
almost like little crystal shards dropping to the ground in a very quiet, soft, whispery way. It's like fairy wings or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's magic.
I know.
It's
magical. And I feel the same way about snow. I love it, but we'll get into that later.
Did you happen to notice that clown pillow that everyone talks about in this scene?
I did notice the clown pillow. I have to say that I found it kind of creepy. It didn't look like any kind of clown I've ever seen. It actually looked like a cross between the Michael Myers mask and the mask from that movie Happy Death Day.
Oh, I love that movie.
I know. I love that movie too.
I love that movie because for more than one reason. Well, Tree, the main character in that movie, has the same birthday as I do. So happy Death Day to me. Hello?
Well, let's just continue to say happy birthday to you.
But that pillow did have some menacing eyes.
Yes, it did. And I kind of would have been able to live just fine without having seen that.
Yeah, and that movie is a take on Groundhog's Day, a new twist, kind of.
It is, which is one of the reasons why I liked it. It was filmed very interestingly.
And I didn't know what they were going to do with the second one, but I enjoyed that one too.
Oh, yeah. I didn't like it as much as I liked the first one. They're both good, but I just really loved the first one.
And I always say, bye!
Yeah. If you haven't seen that movie, you should definitely go check it out. So Lorelai goes on and on about snow to Rory, how pretty everything is, how the clothes and hats are great, how the best things in her life have happened when it snowed.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I really agree with her. Snow just makes me feel like a kid again.
It's magical.
You know, do you remember that time that we got that 9.5 inches that one year?
Oh, Lord.
You got to understand, around
it's a rare occurrence.
It is rare if we even get a dusting during winter.
I remember a couple snowstorms we've had. That's it.
We live in Tennessee, and we are in a state that...
we get more ice than snow.
We'll get ice before we'll get snow, and even
we
that's
had it
rare.
so bad that it took power lines out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real bad.
But we're surrounded by all of these states that get snow. It's like we're in this little tiny pocket that's like, no snow for you. You know, like Seinfeld, no soup for you.
And people up north always laugh at us because y'all can't drive in the snow. It's not the snow, people, it's the ice. You can't drive on ice.
But then again,
because we don't plow the roads around here.
I will say that they are right in a sense, because we can't drive in the snow because we hardly ever get it.
Because they don't plow the roads and prepare enough.
Right.
So we have ice.
If we do happen to get snow, number one, we're not as equipped as states that get it on a regular basis. We don't have that kind of equipment.
Like I said,
we don't have that kind of plan in place.
I personally can drive, but I avoid it for the other people.
Yeah, but we also just don't know how to drive in it because we very rarely get it. You'll be driving in snow and trying to be very careful, and you'll see some idiot just plunging 95 miles an hour down the road.
Out of care in the world.
Yeah, and then of course
and you'll
about
see him
a mile
go over,
down there, and
you'll
they're
see
in
him
the
go
ditch.
over the hill and disappear.
Yeah.
And you know what happened. You come up on.
That one year we got 9.5 inches. I was smart. I was one of the people that left work as soon as it started to stick. And it was like 8:30 in the morning, and I got in my car. It still took me 3 hours to get home.
Yeah, it's
people,
ridiculous around here.
It took some people 9 hours to get home, and some people didn't make it home at all, and they had to check into a local hotel.
Yeah, so come on down and move to Tennessee, folks, if you want to.
Well, they always say about our weather, you don't like our weather, just wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, it changes.
But anyway, so it was a really big deal. But as soon as I got home that day, I made Mark and I walk all the way down to the closest gas station. I think it was like a mile away, just so that way we could be out in it. I love it that much. So I feel quite the same about Lorelai, but I do digress quite a bit on this.
Moving on.
I can wax eloquent about Snow.
Stories to tell.
Yes. So they talk about Max and his message, and Rory seems okay with it right now. Her parting remark as she goes back to bed is that it's all fodder for the tell-all. And I thought,
that's interesting.
This was interesting.
That's very leading.
Was it unintended foreshadowing here for events that happen much later in the series?
We shall see.
Yeah. So Lorelai puts the blanket over her head as she's sitting on the couch, and she proceeds to listen to the message from Max again.
She's so enthralled with that.
Yes. Okay, so next we have the scene at the Independence Inn. So Lorelai is coming into the lobby. She is so excited about the outside. She's asking people what it's looking like. Michelle is being all negative, of course, and Lorelai is saying they'll need to pull out sleds and parkas in case people want to go hiking.
Michelle is the total opposite of Lorelai.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we know he is.
Of course.
He's going to poo-poo anything that she's talking about.
Yeah, he basically, he says the thrilling sensation of getting lost in a blizzard, of freezing to death in the woods and having to eat your friend's buttocks to stay alive. That is lost on many people. And Lorelai says, I am telling you, 5 minutes in a snowball fight, we could knock that stick right out of your butt.
Yeah.
I just about died when she said that. So at that
Pull it
point,
out already, Michelle.
Yeah. So Suki comes out of the kitchen and starts talking about maple sugar snowflakes on all of the pillows. And Michelle says, make them in the shape of a buttock. Get people used to them.
Yeah, now he's taking it to an unhealthy level here.
But Suki, of course, naturally being Suki,
another level.
Takes it a little seriously and looks at Lorelai and says, is that a real question? And Lorelai's like... please, who's speaking? And Suki immediately is like, right, Michelle,
yeah,
okay.
it's Michelle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being Michelle there.
Right.
Yeah.
So at that
Moving
point...
on.
Yeah. At that point, Rory comes in with Lane, who is dressed in her band uniform, talking about someone named Rich Blumenfeld. And she says that she's been around him forever, but basically just noticed him. And Rory's all about finding her chemistry book and asking if she's had it at Lane's house the day before. And, I mean, Rory never...
Oblivious.
She never seems interested in talking about anything about Lane. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
But, like, when it's her stuff, she expects Lane to listen and support her. This kind of reminds me of the first episode when she jokingly told Dean that maybe she's self-centered. And I remember at the time that we thought, perhaps she is. We took it serious at the time. I think now in certain circumstances, especially this one, there's definitely evidence of it. What do you think?
Yeah, she definitely pegged herself on that one.
Oh, yeah. So Lane has to actually say to her, Rory, focus, please. But she doesn't, She keeps looking for a Kim book, and when she finally finds it, she remembers Rich's name, but then asks if he still wears the Star Trek t-shirt.
Yeah.
And Lane just kind of rolls her eyes in exasperation because she realizes the only thing that Rory heard her say was the name Rich.
Yeah.
So...
Focus, Lamar.
Yeah.
Come on, hello, Rory. They make a lot of Star Trek references in these episodes.
I've noticed that.
It kind of makes you wonder if the Paladinos are big Trekkies.
Yeah, it does kind of make you wonder that. I mean, so far, I don't know if I'd want to go back and count them up, but there have been quite a few Trek references in just the 8 episodes that we've watched.
Yeah, there's 2 types of fans out there. There's Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans.
Right.
I tend to be more of the Star Wars leaning.
Yeah,
but I like
too.
both. Are you a Star Trek fan or a Star Wars fan? Or a little both, maybe?
I'm more of a Star Wars fan. I did enjoy a couple of the Star Trek movies, but I never really got into the show.
So we're taking a poll.
Yes.
Y'all can answer that. Let us know.
I love tribbles, though. Is it tribbles?
Trebles? Is it
tribbles? I think it's tribbles.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah.
They multiply?
Yes.
Kind of like gremlins when you get them wet?
Yes. So then Rory and Lane go into the kitchen where Rory asks Suki for some Rocky Road cookies. Suki goes to scrounge them up. Lane continues to try to talk about Rich's hair and how luxurious it is to Rory. And Rory's responding but kind of brushing her off, saying that, she has to get to the bus because Dean's going to meet her there. And Lane's like, but I'm trying to talk to you about this. I know. We'll talk on the way.
Yeah,
and at that point, Suki brings her a bag of the cookies and Lorelai comes in, and sees Lane in her band uniform.
Hello there, Sergeant Pepper.
Yes,
like the
she
Lonely
does.
Hearts Club Band.
Yes, she does. And Lorelai
Beatles.
says, hey, sweets. She says, I have a locksmith coming to the house today like 5-ish, and I don't know how long it'll take, so will you tell Grandma and Grandpa that I'm going to be late and that I'm having Satan's baby? You pick the order.
Jeez.
And Rory just says, I'll relay the time message, but I'm leaving the rest up to you.
Wow.
So, yeah. At that point, Lorelai notices...
Is that Rosemary's Baby there again?
I don't know. But Lorelai notices the cookies, and she mentions that Rory hates Rocky Road cookies.
Yeah.
And at first, Rory kind of tries to say that she doesn't, but then Lorelai quickly informs her, everyone there actually, that Dean is the one who likes Rocky Road cookies. Yeah.
That's who likes those cookies.
So just to rub it in, she and Suki start singing a song about love and Dean and Rory and cookies. Got the cookies in the Dean and love and the Dean. Yeah. At that point, Rory...
And Suki likes it because she's having fun with it. She keeps going.
Oh, yeah. So Rory quickly pulls Lane out of there, and Lorelai quits singing at that point, but Suki
she
continues
keeps it going.
to go. And
she's in her own world.
Lorelai's like, you can stop now, and she's like, oh, but it's so fun. She just keeps going.
Yeah, I gotta mention something about Rory there. She's a little shady, little miss, because she's gonna take those cookies from Suki. You know, because neither one of them bake Lorelai or Rory.
Oh, no.
So she's gonna go and try to pawn those off on Dean like she made them lovingly for him. There's something going on there.
Well, I don't know if she actually says that. We'll see.
But she doesn't. Say they're not.
She doesn't. Well, that's true. She doesn't.
Omits, at least, at the very least.
So Rory and Lane are now walking toward the bus stop. They're walking down the street. Lane's trying once again, talking about how she's known this guy since the 6th grade. But Rory is looking down. She's going through her book. She's going through papers, basically ignoring Lane. And Lane asks a question, and Rory just says, I'm sorry, what? And again, Lane has to say to Rory, you're not listening to me.
Yeah.
And at that point, she finally gets her attention there for just a minute as they sit down. Yeah.
Hello.
As they sit down on the bench. Once again, I'm thinking, hello, McFly, anybody home? You know, and they're sitting down there on the bench, but then who shows up but Dean, and the two of them start talking, and Lane may as well not even be there.
Yeah, do you relate to that?
Yeah. I mean, Lane looks miserable, kind of abandoned. Yeah, I've had friends like that.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in high school, I was always the one that cared more about the relationship than my friends did. So I was the one who always went overboard to be the listener and do the things for people, and they did not reciprocate. And as I grew up, I kind of quit being as giving.
Well, I will say this about you, and I've even heard people say this about you, that you're just easy to talk to, and they like talking to you, and so that's probably why you get that a lot.
That may be true.
But when it comes time for them to listen to you...
I am the person that is known to go up to strangers off the streets and just say, hey, can I give you a hug? You look like you need one.
And that's where your daughter
You've
gets
seen me do it. You've seen me do that.
'Cause I see that in both of you. Yeah,
but
definitely.
Just as friends go, though, I'm still a giving person, and I'm still a good listener, but I quit getting so deeply involved in friendships, you know, as I used to be in high school, to that level, because I just got hurt too much.
Well, Rory is definitely in her own little stratosphere there, and she's ignoring her friend Lane.
Right.
When Lane's always there to lend her an ear.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and very caring and trying to help her, give good advice.
She's a very good friend.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that she isn't really allowed to have good world experience,
she's lucky to have her from Miss Kim.
She still gives some great advice for a girl 16 who is kind of sheltered.
She's lucky to have friends at all with Miss Kim there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So Dean gives Rory a book back. Apparently she got him to read a Jane Austen novel. And he doesn't really seem too excited about it, but Rory takes it from him as if he, like, raved about it. And even makes a point to turn to Lane and mention that Dean just loved Jane Austen. And to me, Lane's response is a little snarky when she says back, wow, who'd have thought it?
Yeah.
And finally, she just makes an excuse and leaves.
Well, you got me into Jane Austen. And I will have to admit, I do enjoy those books.
They're good.
Yeah, I don't think Rory would have even noticed that Lane was there at all.
I don't think she did. Actually, she just kind of kept on
speaking of that,
talking to Dean. But, you know, let's pause for a second to talk about
Lane.
Let's pause for a second to talk about Dean. In this scene, you know, he didn't seem to me overly excited about the Jane Austen book. Instead, he immediately tells her about a book that he thinks that she should read, and completely different type of author, different type of genre. And I'm just kind of struck by their differences here. Yes, he read the book for her, which was sweet, and I will admire that, but their tastes are totally different. You know, intellectually, they're not on the same page.
No. No.
I don't know. Maybe I took that wrong. I'm sure Dean fans will definitely have things to say about that, but that was just my take on it.
Well, she has something to say later. We'll talk about it in the Scott's podcast.
Yeah. Next, we go back to the Independence Inn. This episode actually really does jump around quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we go from one place back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah. Already, as I tend to be.
So Lorelai comes into the inn. She mentions how they've had their first sighting of snowflakes. And she's standing at the front desk. She's kind of smiling in this little private reverie that she has going on. And she's just kind of saying softly to herself, the world changes when it snows. It gets quiet. Everything softens. And all of a sudden, Michelle's...
Yeah, she's waxing poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming back to me now.
All of a sudden, Michelle's hand comes out of nowhere.
The phone?
With holding the phone.
Yes.
And he said, it's your mother.
I love that.
And Lorelai says...
Yeah, way to kill the mood there, Michelle. Buzzkill.
Right. And Lorelai
moment with
says...
snow.
And then the rains come.
Yeah. Oh, they come pouring down all right. When
And
Emily's
then
on
she
there.
says, hi, Mom. So, at that point, immediately, Emily starts asking if Lorelai has seen the news.
Uh-oh.
And Lorelai says, ever? And I thought that was so funny.
I
But
tend to do that too sometimes.
And, yeah. And Emily was like, a bad storm is heading your way. It's already hitting us here. And Lorelai says, well, don't panic. I'll get the ark, you get the animals.
Okay, and the reason I said I'm like that sometimes too, because our mom tends to have a tendency.
Well, it's my mom, technically.
Well, I call her mom too.
But yes,
Yeah.
he's like a surrogate. She's his
Son-in-law,
mother-in-law, but
but
he treats her like a mom and she treats him
yeah,
like a son.
but if there's an inkling of bad weather, there could be a thunderstorm, a tornado, a flash flood, anything, we're getting a call.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Have you guys seen the news?
Yeah. Are you okay?
Are you okay?
It's out of concern, but Emily, yeah,
Isn't.
not so much. She's definitely got an ulterior motive there.
Right. So she tells Lorelai, she says that she just sent someone to pick Rory up from school.
Oh, here it comes out.
Yeah, how the roads were terrible.
Right away.
Black ice, a big mess, and then asked what time Lorelai is going to be there for dinner.
Yep, here it is.
And Lorelai is like, well, gee, Mom, I don't know. Let me see. Black ice, treacherous roads. I guess I'll just put on my red, white, and blue leotard, grab my golden lasso, and fly the invisible plane on over. And I thought that was really kind of funny because it's the same reference that we made when we were watching episode 2.
Little did we know that she would reference Wonder Woman. But
Yes.
we will get to this, I promise.
Yes.
I want to get back. I want to circle back to this one.
Yeah. So Emily says you're not coming. But she talks about how Rory should spend the night. And she said, and if it's still bad tomorrow. And Lorelai says, Mom, why don't you wait and see what the weather does before you fill out a change of address card for her?
She's going to interment on her camp,
Yeah. So at that point, Rory arrives and talks to Lorelai, and Lorelai tells her, basically that she's going to be staying home, not coming to Friday night dinner because of the roads. So at that point, we cut to outside at Luke's diner, and it's nighttime. The reenactors are passing by Luke, and he's basically following them and asking them why they're doing this. And the mayor reminds him basically should be ashamed of himself because his father was a reenactor too.
Yeah.
And Luke just says, yeah, and he thought he was crazy too. And Lorelai just walks up behind him as the men walk on.
Those reenactors get fanatical.
It's
kind of like cosplay.
They're very serious
people
about it.
On the other spectrum, they get into reenacting, like Comic-Con stuff. But these reenactors, they go out and do the Civil War battles. And, yeah, it's a real big thing. It's not my cup of tea, but, yeah, I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. Lorelai walks up behind Luke, and she says, well, there goes the fire chief, the police chief, and the one paramedic with a valid license. I feel safe, don't you? And Luke says, look at them. All relatively intelligent men, but they are all dressed up in costumes, standing out in a snowstorm, and for what? And Lorelai says, because it's tradition.
Well, Luke's pod is defective, so he's not a big joiner.
Yeah, he already said his pod was defective in the last
and I agree
episode.
with mine is too. But.
So his answer back to her saying it's tradition is a trap. It allows people to stick their head in the sand. Everything in the past was so quaint, so charming. Times were simpler. Kids didn't have sex. Neighbors knew each other. It's a freaking fairy tale. Things sucked then too. He said it just sucked without indoor plumbing.
Well, I guess they best embrace the suck there, right?
Yeah.
But
I think so.
I have to disagree with Luke on that. That's one good thing that they do is remember the past, because if you neglect the past, you're doomed to repeat it.
That's true.
So, yeah, I have to disagree with him on that.
Learn from the past.
Yeah, learn from your mistakes, kids.
So Lorelai says to him, I think some traditions are nice. Birthdays, holidays, taking a walk in the first snow of the season. And Luke's like, I didn't get the Hallmark card for that one. And Lorelai's like,
Maybe you needed to post it.
Yeah. And she says, when I was 5, she said I had a really bad ear infection and I had been home in bed for a week and I was very sad. So I wished really hard that something wonderful would happen to me. And I woke up the next morning and it had snowed. And she said, and I was sure that some fairy godmother had done it just for me. It was my little present.
Yeah.
And Luke said, your parents never explained the concept of weather to you?
Well, it's like magical, you know?
Yeah. And Lorelai said, I'm making a point, Mouthy McGee. She
Zip
said,
it, Zippy.
yeah. She says, of course, many years later, I realized that logically, the snow was not there for me personally. But still, when it snows, something inside me says, hey, that's your present.
Yep.
And I don't think it'll ever change. So they talk a little bit more about the reenactors and his dad, and they kind of casually tells her.
His dad had his own musket, and he was
married with it. But
he was big into it.
Luke kind of casually slips in.
Maybe that's what turned him off of it.
So he kind of casually slips in, why don't you come on in and I'll get you some coffee.
Huh.
And she said, no thanks. And she's smiling. She's not being ugly. She's just kind of, enjoying the weather. And she says, I'm going to walk around enjoying my present a little more.
Yeah, take it all
and
in.
When she walks off, he really does kind of stare after her pretty hard.
Yeah, he's jonesing there. But do you think that was his attempt at asking her on a kind of a date, slyly,
In his own way, I think he might have been. But
he put himself out there.
From her perspective, very slightly.
Yeah.
But from her perspective, no. Because in her head, because this is what I would be thinking about as her. This is the guy who always serves her coffee. So she's probably seeing it as more like the coffee guy offering to give her coffee.
Just doing his job.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to do better than that in my book.
Yeah, he was, they were close, but I get it.
He's going to have to stick his neck out and be more direct.
Yeah.
And that is his problem. And I think this is what makes Max intriguing to Lorelai.
Oh, yeah.
Is that he states what he wants with confidence. He doesn't dither around. He is straightforward.
Yeah, I give props to Max on that. He's very direct. But it's kind of like George when he said, I'm going to call you up and ask you out proper, like when he was talking to Aaron Brockovich.
In the movie Aaron Brockovich? Yes.
Be more direct. Be more like Max.
Yes.
So why do you think Luke's afraid then?
Honestly, I've thought about that over and over because he's had so many opportunities and he'll put little feelers out, but that's all that they are, and they're not enough to get somebody's attention to make they're only enough to make somebody blink and think to themselves, was that a little something?
So he's
but then they're going to shake their head, and say, no, that wasn't anything.
And seeing if there's a possibility, sticking your toe in the end
yeah,
of the pool
but see, the other person's not going to see it that way.
Yeah.
So I think that he might see her as a little above him in a way. He's a small town guy who grew up there,
exactly.
And she's a transplant who only grew up there from like 16 onward, and he knows where she came from. He knows her background.
Yeah.
Maybe he thinks that he's not good enough for her, in a way.
They went into that on his podcast about the psychology of it all. He brought a lot of his own personal views into the role. Mm-hmm. Like I said, they're a lot alike.
So, yeah, why didn't he offer to go with her?
Yeah.
See, that would have been a perfect opportunity. He's looking after her longingly, like I said. But if he'd offered to go with her, he could have said something like, well, do you want some company?
Well, he's already put that out there that I'm anti this, I'm not down with this,
yeah,
I'm anti-snow, I'm anti-reenactment.
But you've seen already in prior episodes how he will step around his normal rules when it comes to her.
Yeah, he'll let go of the reins
so
there.
He could have said, want some company? And she would have said yes. She knows she would.
That was my thought. My definitely go-to there was...
And I'm thinking, what if he had gone? Would it have changed what happens next?
Oh, well, yeah, we'll get to that with her gift coming around the corner.
Do you think it would have changed what happens next?
Possibly.
Yeah. So we are in front of the Stars Hollow High School. Lane is standing in front of the school with the rest of her bandmates, and there's a guy kneeling down in front of her that I can only guess is rich with the luxurious hair.
This is his big moment here.
Yeah. And she's got this smile on her face. She's looking down at him, and she just, without even thinking about it, reaches down and runs her fingers through his hair.
She couldn't resist.
And as soon as he looks up at her when she does it, and as soon as he does, she realizes what she's just done, and she runs for the hills, boy. She is embarrassed and just takes off running.
She just got overtook by her hormone. They just took over,
Yeah.
She couldn't contain herself.
So that was all of that scene. And like I said, this particular episode cuts back and forth and back and forth. So
nowadays, if that's the other way around, yeah, watch out.
Yeah. Now we're back on the sidewalk. Lorelai is walking down the sidewalk. She stops because up ahead she sees Max Medina in front of an auto repair shop.
Like an angel standing there.
And he... now, the mechanic is not Gypsy, by the way.
No, it's some guy.
So we still have not met Gypsy.
I'm thinking if it's the same guy from earlier seasons.
Was it Muskies that she referred to or something?
I'm thinking he's still holding on by a thread of his business before Gypsy comes in and buys him out or something. Something he forecloses or something goes on there. I'm still wanting to know the story behind that, by the way.
Right.
If anybody has it, let me know.
But they see each other across the way, and they smile at each other. And Lorelai says to herself, I smell snow. And when she said that, I felt what she meant by that is kind of what she said to Luke earlier, that she sees Max's presence as being a gift from the snow.
Did you see her face? It lit up,
boy. It lit up.
I got snow. Oh, and look, Max is here all of a sudden.
So they talk a little bit. They banter. He asks, about somewhere he could take her. And she's like, well, this is my town. And he says, but he was the one who asked her, so he should pick. And I do kind of like that way of thinking. It's more straightforward than Luke. It's decisive, and I think that Lorelai likes it too.
Yeah, but she does question his motives here. She's like, of all the little towns and all the people, oh, wait, you do know somebody here. Me. She's kind of throwing some shade at him there, like, I know what your game is, big boy. You ain't pulling the wool over my eyes.
So we're there for a very short time, and then we cut to the Gilmore house.
Uh-oh.
Emily is on the phone saying that she cannot understand why the person that she's talking to waited so late to call while Rory sits on the couch and Richard is reading the newspaper. So apparently it was their cook on the phone explaining how she can't get there. And Richard says, well, they're going to have to go out to eat.
Yeah, Richard's in his paper, in his zone. He don't know what's going on.
Right. And Emily says it's too bad outside to go out. And then she says she hates snow. So there's two things on this that I think are funny. Number one, I find it's really funny that Emily was concerned enough about the roads to warn Lorelai, make sure that Rory was picked up from school, and even let Lorelai out of Friday night dinner, which she never does.
Yeah.
And it's too bad for them to go out to eat, but she still expects to cook to get there and make them dinner.
Yeah, she was so focused on getting control of Rory. She didn't care about Lorelai being there at all.
No.
As long as she had Rory to sink her hooks into, and then she's like, but what are we going to eat?
Yeah.
At the same time.
And then the second thing I found funny about
Maybe they could order a pizza. You think they'd get it delivered?
I don't know.
Well, that's coming up.
And second thing I thought was funny about that is that she is obviously the complete opposite of Lorelai in the fact that she hates snow.
Polar opposites.
Yeah.
One loves it, one hates it. That's mother-daughter right there.
So at this point, Rory attempts to defuse the situation by saying that she's going to go and she'll find something in the freezer for them to eat. So they're all kind of gathered around the freezer.
It's like a scavenger hunt. They go, see, I told you there's Pat with me.
And Rory, and Rory spots a frozen pizza. And Emily guesses it must
there's a pizza.
Yeah. And Emily says, oh, it must belong to Anna. And Richard's like, the maid? And when Emily says yes, he says, got one.
Yeah, it was like he was winning the lottery there, like, guess the maid name.
Yeah. He was so excited because he guessed the maid's name.
Got one right, yeah.
Got one right. So then we cut back to Stars Hollow, and Lorelai and Max are getting takeout, and they're talking about his background. He asks if she'd ever been close to marriage. And she says, Rory's dad proposed. Mm-hmm. And Max was like, well, what happened? And Lorelai said, the bell rang. I was late for Chem Lab.
Yeah, this is just
I thought that was kind of funny.
The banter, it's building, the tension,
And then we cut back to the Gilmore residence. Rory is kind of bored waiting on the pizza to cook. She's staring out the window. Richard is on the phone this time. Emily is sitting on the couch. So she goes wandering around, and she ends up in her mother's old room looking through her drawer, and she finds one of those old photo booth pictures.
Snapshot.
And it's a picture of a young Lorelai and Christopher, Rory's dad, dated 1983.
Loving, kiss, the kissing
booth.
The
kissing booth kind of picture. And she puts it in her pocket, and I guess she decides to keep it.
Well, she stared at it hard there for a second.
Yeah. And at that point, she gets a page on her beeper, and she calls home where Lane is at her house and answers the phone. She probably thought Rory would be there, so she went there when she had made her big mistake with Rich's hair.
Oh, I love this.
But Rory asks, why are you at my house?
Yeah, I love this.
And Lane says, like you care.
Yeah, boom.
Boom, mic drop. Yes.
Jinx. Go, girl.
And Rory says, what are you talking about? And Lane says, you're never around when I need you.
Call her on that.
And Rory's like, well, I have to go to my grandparents on Fridays.
Yeah.
She says, I know. You go to your grandparents. You go to Chilton. You have to meet Dean. He needs his cookies. I can't find my books.
She's airing
and Rory's
it out
like,
here.
what are you talking about? She sounds like a broken record.
Yeah, oblivious.
And Lane said, what good is it to have a best friend when she's never around and she never listens and she has no interest in the fact fact that you're in love or that you touched his hair.
Yeah, that's like her mom at times when she's oblivious to stuff. But then they get smacked in the face with it, and eventually they're like, oh, God, I gotta solve this.
Lane really goes off on her here, and I actually think it was kind of good that she did.
Snaps for Lane.
She has always been there for Rory.
Yes, she has.
And
good
supported
advice,
her,
good friend.
listened to her, but Rory has really just not been very present for her at all.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought she had this coming in a way. But Rory acts very surprised by the outburst, like she's totally oblivious.
Yeah, what'd I do?
And Lane starts explaining about how she had touched Rich's hair, and Rory asked her why she'd touch his hair.
Because it's his hair, man. You know? It's
Yeah,
Rich's hair.
it's Rich's hair.
What more can I say?
Right. But Lane says, why? She said, that's a good question. I don't know why. Why would a sane person do a thing like that? Maybe I'm not sane. Maybe I'm going through some sort of phase. Maybe I really, really needed someone to talk to about this and you weren't there. And Rory's like, Lane, come on. And she says, no, you come on.
Yeah.
You're always at school, or you're talking about school,
Dean.
or you're with Dean.
Yeah, there it is.
You have everything now, and I have nothing except 2,000 Korean Bibles and a potential F in jazz band.
I think it was her hormonies. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, her hormonies.
Like Great Wedding, her hormonies.
And Rory says to her, I'm sorry. And Lane says, don't be sorry. Be here.
Yeah, be present.
Be
Come
present.
on now.
And at that point, unfortunately, the phone line cuts and she can't get Lane anymore. And just at that moment, Emily walks in.
In a panic.
She looks frantic, honestly. Rory's trying to talk about the phones going dead and how she needs to call Lane back. But Emily's like, it's probably a storm. But she insists that Rory come downstairs immediately.
Yeah.
And when Rory asked her what's wrong, she answered in this horrified voice, the stove is buzzing.
Oh, God.
And Rory's like, it's just a timer, Grandma. And Emily's like, I know it's the timer, Rory, but I don't know is where it's located or how to turn it off.
Yeah.
And you can hear Richard in the background yelling for them to come because of the buzzer on the oven.
Yeah, the only time I get that panicked about a buzzing is the morning alarm.
Right.
But I know people that can't even set their timers when the time zone changes. They can't even set their clocks back or forward. So yeah, I know these people that are technically challenged, but I expect it from Richard and Emily because they have maids to take care of that stuff for them, you know.
So we cut away and we're back in Stars Hollow, where Lorelai has apparently taken Max to the movie theater. And this is actually our first look at what we'll come to know as the black, white, and red movie theater and bookstore.
I kind of like that intimate setting.
I do too. It's a bunch
quaint,
of couches.
you know?
Instead of theater seats, it's couches.
And it's not
it's
huge.
Comfy.
It's
Yeah.
small town. I get it. They kind of make dual usage. Yeah.
So they're sitting on one of the couches watching a movie, and Lorelai, in true Lorelai fashion, is chattering away like she does when she and Rory watch something together. And she keeps asking Max if he's scared yet. Are you scared yet? Are you scared yet? And Max says, you know, you're very annoying in a movie.
Oh, it has nothing to do with that.
And Lorelai says, I know. I think it's very important that you know my faults as well as my many attributes.
Yeah.
And Max says, very thoughtful of you. And I kind of want to say that it was a little rude for him to say that to her. But you never really know if he's being rude because he says it so offhand, so it could be a joke.
No,
But
this
I
is
don't
all
know.
leading somewhere, and you know where it leads to.
Yeah.
It's a little tension building, and they do kiss, you know.
So now we cut back to the Gilmore
A little
house
hot
again.
and heavy there in the little small theater.
Emily, Richard, and Rory are at the table getting ready to eat the pizza. Richard is eating his, of course, with a knife and fork.
Oh, I love this.
And he likes it.
I love this.
Emily takes a bite, it's too hot, you know, but Rory puts some Parmesan cheese on it for her. And she gives Lorelai the credit for that, saying that it'll make it great. And when Emily takes another bite, she says, it's wonderful.
What do you think about that?
I mean, she really
raves.
It's wonderful.
Well, how do you think that would have gone if Lorelai said
Well,
it?
actually, I was going to ask you, do you think that it would have been the same if it had been Lorelai who had been there and Lorelai getting them to eat that, putting Parmesan cheese on it? Would they have reacted the same way and thought it was so great if it had been her? Me? No.
Well, you already know. Heck no. They wouldn't say that. You know, they wouldn't give Lorelai props for anything.
No, of course not.
But I did think this whole scene was funny because, you know, I'm going to mention, like they mentioned Star Trek, I'm going to reference Seinfeld again. Season 6, Episode 3, The Snickers.
I beat you to it. I did the soup Nazi earlier.
Oh, yeah?
You missed it.
Yeah. You slipped that in on me.
I did.
Yeah, this reminds me of when Elaine sees Mr. Pitt, her boss, eating his Snickers bar with a knife and fork, cutting it up.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then George ends up spreading it around at his work, and then everybody starts doing it.
Everybody he's doing
and,
it.
And George, they ask him, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "What? You eat it with your hands?" That's my favorite line. I'm trying to bring a little class to this establishment.
Right.
And then everybody does it. And at the end of the show, Elaine goes off on him because it's like the Twilight Zone. Everybody's doing it.
Right. It's funny.
I love that episode.
Well, what Seinfeld episode do we not love?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Well, I think Rory even had her own little Elaine moment when she said, "Yeah, Grandma, feel free to use your hands."
Yeah, that's true. While they are eating, Rory goes and gets a photo album from her mom's room that she'd apparently found earlier. And they start flipping through the pictures,
Yeah.
and there's a baby picture of Lorelai wearing this nice satin white dress, and Emily said that it had 12 petticoats underneath it.
You think there was any room for that baby in there, baby?
Honestly, I kind of wonder how did the baby not suffocate in that.
Yes.
But,
Jeez.
and Rory says she looks like a little princess.
She did, though.
And rather than just accept the compliment, Emily has to say back, yes, well, if memory serves, I believe about 2 minutes after that picture was taken, Her Highness dumped a glass of grape juice all over it.
Ooh, why can't she just give a compliment?
I don't know. I'm thinking,
this is rubbing. Okay.
why did she have to turn that into some kind of slam? Why couldn't she have just accepted the compliment? I never understand
And
this
she
woman.
was an infant. Come
I
on
know,
now.
she was a baby.
How about not have wine around her? Hello.
Yeah, that'd be good. Or to have a glass of grape juice.
She took no responsibility in that whole scenario.
No.
A baby's gonna
Number
make
one,
a mess.
she was the size of a baby that can't really
A
hold
toddler.
a cup.
Yeah.
Unless it's a sippy cup.
Exactly.
So why wouldn't you have a sippy cup?
Even then, you wouldn't have grape juice or something with a dress like that in it.
No, for
No,
Pete's
because the
sake.
top could come off.
Well, anyway.
I know
so
that.
Richard points out a picture of
Say.
Hopi, who happens to be Emily's sister, who apparently is still alive and living in Paris.
Was I the only one that thought she had a striking resemblance to Rory?
Oh, no. I really did, too.
It might have been her in the picture.
I saw that picture and I thought, did they get Alexis Bledel to pose for that picture?
Good genetics. Or they picked
Yes.
a good cast there.
So then they continue to flip through and they see Richard and Emily's wedding photo. And Rory compliments the dress. Emily says that her mom had 3 seamstresses working on it and that it's packed upstairs somewhere and that she'll save it for Rory if she wants. And again, I'm thinking to myself, okay, traditionally, a mother keeps her wedding dress to pass on to her daughter, not her granddaughter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I thought this was kind of funny.
Then it's up to the mother to pass it down to her daughter.
So, I mean,
So chain of command.
What are you thinking? Is it a deliberate slight just to skip Lorelai entirely? Has she given up on Lorelai marrying, or is this just innocent? What do you think?
Not innocent, but a little of both of those, a slight and giving up on her.
Well, I kind of thought that too.
Emily's definitely holding on hope that she'll get with Christopher eventually, I think. That's
then why isn't she holding her wedding dress
That's her
for
end game, because I don't think that she expects her to get married traditionally, because she bucks tradition.
No, that's true.
Maybe that's a little bit of it. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Then at one point...
But that is low of her to offer it to Rory.
And not to Lorelai.
Not even ask her.
I mean, yeah, just
courtesy. And they're all about properness and
give her the courtesy of saying no.
Yeah, she's all about properness and rules, but when it comes to her daughter, nah.
No.
Let's shun the rules here for a minute.
But yeah, give her the courtesy of saying no. If you think that she will, then it won't hurt you any.
Yeah.
To go ahead.
Well, she's used to her saying no to her parents, so it wouldn't hurt her feelings.
No, exactly.
It would have just been like, well, I expected as much. She'd have something smart to say back to her.
Of course.
It wouldn't fit.
And then it could go to, and then it could go to Rory after all.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least try. So anyway, it comes out during the conversation that apparently Emily had a thing for the pirate guy, Errol Flynn.
Well, shiver me timbers, baby.
Yeah, who starred in all of those pirate movies, And then...
And she mentioned something about her friend. Richard says something about her friend looking like him. And did his mustache, his little fingers on his lips like a mustache.
Yes, I remember that.
That was hilarious.
So next they flip to a picture of a young Lorelai in a beautiful white dress. And Rory says she looks beautiful and asks what was the occasion.
Oh.
And immediately Richard starts to look standoffish. And he says, who would like some coffee?
Oh, yeah. It'll all become clear in a future episode, but yeah. For right now, it's that was a mood kill.
Yeah.
And they clammed up, didn't want to talk.
Yeah, he immediately...
It was definitely a no topic subject.
Yeah, that's a no-fly zone. Yeah. So he says, who would like some coffee? But Emily goes ahead and answers Rory, and she says that was her debutante gown for her coming out party
Yeah.
And Rory says, Mom had a coming out party. And Richard said, no, she didn't.
Yeah, we get the full story
And
later.
Rory's like, oh.
Yeah.
And Emily just says, things
Richard's
happen.
beside himself.
Yeah.
He gets up and says, I got business,
Well, Emily just says things happen, don't they?
Yeah.
And then Richard has business calls to make
she's
all
gonna
of a
get
sudden.
coffee, and they just leave. I hate how they just left her.
Well, they left her there
Yeah.
standing looking at the picture.
Yeah, I hated that.
I mean, what kind of feeling must she have been going through, after that? It was innocent. She thought this would be a bonding experience, and I don't know. And I thought to myself, okay, here we are. We're at the root of the problem that exists between Lorelai and her parents. And I'm thinking, are they mad at her? Are they disappointed? Are they embarrassed? Are they ashamed? What is it?
Well, and Rory's sitting there left to think, if I make one mistake, are they going to shun me?
Well, yeah.
What kind of impression did that leave?
What would be the logical assumption from that?
Yeah.
But, whatever it is, why don't y'all just freaking talk about it? Why don't y'all sit down, have it out, and
air your grievances,
get it over with.
That
and
leads to one of our funnier episodes, too, down the line, but that's...
But maybe at that point, you could actually have a relationship, the three of them,
Clear the air.
But, I digress. Into something that will never happen, I don't think.
Well, maybe.
We'll see. So then we go back and we're at the diner, and Luke is watching out of the diner windows as the reenactors stand out shivering in the snow, and he brings a tray of coffee out for them, which I thought was really nice because he had been so stubborn about it. And of course, at first they're stubborn about taking the coffee, but then they eventually do take it. And then some of them start, making orders. Well, can I have some cocoa,
Yeah, if I was out there freezing my keister off and somebody brought me something hot to drink, I probably wouldn't care what it was. And I don't drink coffee. I would have took the coffee. Now, if they wanted to bring me cocoa later, I'm more of a hot chocolate kind of guy. So if they wanted to bring that later, fine. But yeah, I'm not going to turn down something when I'm shivering cold. But Kirk's over there, I'd like some green tea or something. I'm like, what?
But as he's passing out the drinks, Luke happens to look up, and from a distance he sees Lorelai walking with Max, and they stop and they kiss. And he just kind of stares at them really hard and steady for a second. Then he looks down at the ground.
Missed opportunity.
And it's a look that's kind of a mixture of disappointment, defeat, and maybe a little sadness in there. And the song that's playing while he was looking at her was Someone to Watch Over Me.
Yeah.
And I thought, interesting choice of song to play at that moment, wouldn't you say?
That is a very telling song.
It is.
But as far as Luke's concerned, this is my feeling. You snooze, you lose, Luke. You missed your opportunity.
I know.
But when he put his head down at defeat, it reminded me of that Chris Stapleton song that I love, No One to Blame But Me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got to take your chances, dude.
Yep.
Wake up, Luke. Just want to shake him a little bit.
Right.
This is what happens when you let opportunity slip through your hands,
Yep.
Like he should have took that walk with her, like you said.
Yep.
Hey, how about I
Because,
join you,
like I said, if he had said, do you want some company, she would have said, sure.
And that would have totally made Max rethink what's going on here.
If she would have been walking with Luke when she met up with Max, I think things would have ended differently.
Max probably would have gotten his broken down car and took off.
Left.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's a miracle. It's healed.
So, but the next scene that we see is Lorelai at her house with Max.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
So, she gives him a speech at the door about snow. Then there was him. And now she's thinking about Rory and dating in their house. Mm-hmm. And she talks back and forth with him and how she never brings guys to her house.
Oh, no.
And he says, well, so it's snowing, cold, and your daughter is elsewhere. And Lorelai's like, I know. And Max says, at some point in your life, you're going to have to decide that some guy's worth opening that front door for. He says, I'm just volunteering.
You know how a lot of girls will say, I don't do this, I never done this, I'm not the kind of do that. But she really means it here, I think.
Yeah, I do too.
But, some of them, it's just a ploy. But it kind of reminds me of that song, Christmas song, Baby, It's Cold Outside, where he's coaxing her
to stay.
Yeah. He's like, let me in. And she's like, well, I got a kid. And then,
Bear in mind, I didn't quote every piece of dialogue to that scene.
It was more in depth than that.
If you hear the whole thing,
he's very persuasive.
The comparison to that song, really does kind of fit.
That's why I thought it. I was like, yeah, that's it.
But I don't know if I feel like he's way to go, Max, for being confident and being assertive.
He's this close to the prize, and he's got to finish that finish line.
If I think that he's being a little pushy.
Yeah, he is a little bit because he's trying to get that goal.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So they eventually do go in the house,
but she concedes and she wants it too.
So they're in the kitchen, and she's asking, if he would like some coffee, and she's, starting to make some coffee, but
this is all foreplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as she starts to make it, he kisses her.
Yeah.
And the kiss ends up migrating into the living room and toward the steps.
Yeah, it's getting
to
a little
go
hot
up.
and heavy here.
Yeah. And then who should walk in but Lane?
I was so proud of her. I was like, yes, you go, girl.
Thank you, Lane. Yeah. Max happens to open his eyes from the kiss, and he looks over Lorelai's shoulder and sees Lane standing there, and he asks her to remind him, how many kisses did she have again?
Yeah, that's right.
But it was great because the looks on their faces was Lorelai turned around and she was like busted.
Yeah.
Because she knows, of course, that Lane is probably going to tell Rory.
And being a good friend that Lane is, she does Rory a solid. She's running a blocker like Cletus for the Bandit and Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah.
She's keeping her away from Sheriff Buford T. Justice.
Oh, yeah. But Lane says that she was... Lane says she's waiting for Rory to get home.
Yeah.
And Lorelai says, well, Rory's stuck in Hartford for the night. So Lane goes back to Rory's room. Lorelai leaves Max to settle on the couch, and she follows her in.
I love this scene.
I love this scene, too. And I don't quote it all, but I did the most important
This is what Rory should have been doing.
So the next thing you know, she has Lane talking and spilling her guts on what happened. And Lane's embarrassed about being able to go back to school, and what people are going to think. And Lorelai says, look at it from a different perspective. You have so many years of screw-ups ahead of you. View this as a trial run for really grown-up humiliation.
Yeah, some real issues there.
And Lane says, so not helping. And Lorelai says, maybe you should be a hairdresser. And Lane says, Lorelai!
No.
And Lorelai says, yes, it's perfect.
Rich don't want her touching his hair again.
No. But Lorelai says, yes, it's perfect. Then you can run your hands through anybody's hair that you want. They'll pay you for it.
They won't suspect you of being that touchy.
They'll pay you for it. Lane asks what's she really going to do, because everyone at school is going to be talking about her. And at that point, Lorelai gets serious, and she gives her a pep talk, and I love what she says. She tells her it's how you handle experiences that you should judge yourself by.
Yeah.
And she compares it to how she had screwed up years ago. But then she gets Lane in a good mood by asking how Rich's hair had felt.
Yeah. She couldn't go to her mom, Miss Kim.
Of course not.
Because she doesn't even know. If she liked a boy, she'd be holed up in a tower or something.
Oh, of course,
in the Disney movie or something.
I love Mrs. Kim, but she is so strict that if she even knew that Lane was looking at a guy, she'd have her locked in a room for 2 weeks.
More than
or
that.
she'd have her homeschooled from then on.
She'd never be allowed to set foot out of the house.
So after they get finished talking about Lane's issue, and Lane has calmed down and feels good, she asks Lorelai, so who's the guy? And Lorelai says, Rory's teacher. And Lane says, oh, he has nice hair.
What is her fixation on hair, man?
I don't know.
She is going to be a hairdresser, I think.
So Lorelai leaves Lane. She goes back out to Max, and he seems to be ready to leave. But she convinces him to stay on her couch.
Yeah, it seems almost as the male perspective that I didn't get what I wanted in this situation, and I'm just going to bail. What do you think about that?
Kind of.
If he really wanted to be around her, as a guy, I'm saying this, you would do anything to spend more time with that person.
I will say...
Even if you didn't get what you wanted. The physical part.
He did seem to be kind of putting her in a position where she had to
talk
him into staying.
Yeah.
And all she was doing was talking him into staying on her couch.
Yeah. Well,
she was going to be upstairs.
That wasn't his goal. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, no, I agree with you.
He had a different plan in mind. And if he didn't get that, he's out.
Right.
I'm checking out of the situation.
So here we are the next morning, and Lorelai wakes up in her bedroom. She's alone because Max is downstairs, and Rory is just pulling up outside. So Lorelai hightails it outside. She catches Rory at the front door after racing through the house and tells her, okay, here's the thing. I have a boy in the house, and that Rory knows him. And Rory goes in, and she sees Max lying on the couch asleep, and then she goes into the kitchen without saying anything really. And Lorelai follows her and asking her, how are you feeling? Rory, talk to me, And at first, Rory says it feels kind of weird, and she asks her mom if she loves him. And Lorelai says it was just a date.
Mm-hmm. She tries to justify things, and she's like, it was the snow. You know how I get. It was like my catnip.
Yeah. Lorelai does mention, though, that she will bring a guy home at some point, but not now. So I guess that was her way of saying, yeah, he was on the couch because of the snow and the roads, and his car was broke down, but if she was on a date, she would not be bringing him home like that.
I bent the rules a little bit here, but I didn't break them.
But sleeping with a guy in the house, no, she would not be doing that now.
Well, she almost did cross that line if Lane went
in front of anybody.
Yeah.
So at that moment, Lane comes out of Rory's room, and Rory says that she's tried calling her back. She admits that she hasn't been a very good friend lately. And
That's true.
I was happy with this because I think that Rory should have apologized. I wish that she'd stood her ground, but being the sweet person that Lane is, she says, no, I've been jealous. But I think that this kind of lets Rory off the hook a little bit and kind of enables her to keep being the same way going forward. So we'll just have to see how that works out. Lane does go on to say, no, I just wigged out a little. I get jealous sometimes. I mean, you seem to have this really great life going and I don't really fit in there. And Rory says, well, that's not true. You totally fit in. And Lane's like, yeah. And Rory's like, I'm talking Legos. And Lane says, I hope so. And Rory's like, well, I will be better from now on. I promise.
Yeah,
24 hours a day at your disposal. And Lane says, Dean will love that.
Yeah, really.
And Rory says, well, he'll have to. You come first.
We'll see.
And Lane says, that's right. I got dibs.
But
so
she does have first call, though.
even though she kind of let Rory off the hook a little bit up there, when she kind of rounds back and says, yeah, that's right, I got dibs, I thought, okay, so despite the earlier apology, I felt that Lane did follow up with that and set an expectation in a very kind way that you need to treat me as a better friend. You need to be a better friend to me.
Yeah.
So I think
agree
that
with
Rory
that.
needed to hear all of that.
Yes.
So Lane
Rory does tend to do that.
Yes.
She realizes her mistakes. She tries to fix them later.
Yeah, she's pretty good about
She's quick
that.
to do that, yeah.
So that kind of leaves Rory in the kitchen by herself, and she just kind of glances into the living room and she sees Lorelai and Max sitting on the couch drinking coffee, and her mom's smiling and looks really happy.
Yeah.
And she returns to the kitchen. She kind of has this look on her face where she just kind of looks a little down. And she takes the picture out of her pocket that was that photo booth picture of her younger mom and Christopher, her dad. And she's just kind of looking at it, you know. And I'm thinking,
Longingly.
is she disappointed that her mom couldn't get
What
married to her
ifs,
dad?
yeah.
What do you think she's thinking as she's looking at this picture right now?
How things might have turned out different if she had that father figure, their closeness in their relationship.
Right.
Maybe it'd been, not that she's disappointed with her mom by any means, but would it have been more stable, more different, you know? Maybe the situation wouldn't have happened, you know?
Right.
You know, the awkwardness of it all.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about Rory here, so it could have been some self-centered reason. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
You know?
Okay, so that was basically the end of the episode at that point.
You know what? I forgot to mention Scott Cohen. We were going to
Oh
talk
my
about
gosh,
him,
yes.
and it totally slipped my mind. I got caught up in the whole walking and seeing him.
Yeah.
And totally over my head. Yeah, let's
That's
talk
okay.
about the unpredictable Max Medina, Scott Cohen.
Yes.
I say that because he's been everywhere. I compare it to Liz Torres' career, which we went over recently. He definitely has a huge repertoire. Once Entertainment Weekly named him Mr. February,
Oh, wow.
referring to his work ethic.
Interesting.
He was on television an impressive 17 hours in 1 month.
Wow.
That is a lot of work. Scott's like many actors on the Gilmore Girls that I've seen before watching the show. I don't know how many times you caught me or I caught myself saying, oh, that's so-and-so, like Chad Michael Murray, you know.
Yeah.
One Tree Hill, hey, Lucas Scott, you know. I've seen Scott on Law and Order, Grey's Anatomy, CSI.
I didn't know he's on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, he's also in NYPD Blue and The Practice.
Oh, wow.
He developed a cult following for his portrayal of Wolf on the NBC miniseries The 10th Kingdom. There's more than 100 online fan clubs, and he did a ton of video watching, and he actually went to the zoo and studied wolves for that role.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was kind of like, wow.
You love wolves.
Yeah,
You're
oh
all
yeah,
into
yeah.
that.
I'm a big anything wolves, you know, werewolves, teen wolf, anything, you know. Yes, he has an extensive resume. He's worked with Robert De Niro,
Oh, wow.
Natalie Portman, Jake
Wow.
Gyllenhaal, Angelina
Dang.
Jolie, and on and on and on. If you do the research, you'll see. On Scott Patterson's podcast, he joked about Max being Dean's real father. He had this theory due to his background and his height of 6'1", because Dean was a little shorter at the time, but because you know Dean's a lot taller than that now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Scott P was also impressed with Scott C's, trying to keep them separate here.
Yeah.
Piano playing skills, as I mentioned. But did you know he also plays drums, guitar,
Get out.
clarinet, French horn, and the bassoon?
Wow, so he's like a symphony all on his own.
He's quite the musician.
Apparently.
Yeah, he's also born in the Bronx. You know, I mentioned someone else was.
Multi-talented.
Yeah, and he acquired his love of music from his jazz musician father, Jack. He used to dress up like Leonard Bernstein in his father's tales and play piano as a child. And one interesting thing that I discovered while Gilmoring is that Cohen studied to be a professional clown.
Oh, wow.
And even worked briefly in the circus. But ultimately, acting got his, goat there. So you never know where you might end up in life.
Right.
But I try to tie all the actors back back to the Gilmore Girls. You know how I like to do that. But the only thing I found was, as I mentioned previously, when he was goading Scott Patterson in his podcast about he worked with Lauren Graham in Law and Order and he was close with her. Remember how he's saying I've touched her even before Gilmore Girls? Yeah, that kind of irritated me there.
Yeah, he was trying to get at Scott Patterson.
Yeah, he was goading him there. So that's Scott Cohen. I did a little Gilmoring. So.
Well, that's fascinating. I had no idea. Let's talk about Scott's podcast.
Let's go into it. I got 3 to cover here.
Okay.
Because we're going to do the one-on-one with Kiko Agena.
Yes.
Elaine Kim. Then we're going to go into the Come On In, I'll Get You Some Coffee, episode 8. There's 2 of those. And the last one's like
so he split it into 2.
Yeah, the last one's more like a therapy session. I'll get to that.
Okay.
So, Kiko Agena, Elaine Kim, she was frustrated that her character didn't have more fulfillment. And I think we talked about that.
I definitely agree with her on that. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I felt that especially
particularly Year in the Life.
The Year in the Life, they could have done so much more with her character.
They kind of lowballed her on that.
I was a little disappointed with what they did with her character.
She was hinting at a spin-off. She would like to do that. But,
I would love to see that.
Who would write it, you know?
Well, the Paladinos.
They're busy now.
They have not completely shut the door to that.
Yeah.
There's a clause, apparently.
There's numerous possibilities with this show, as we all know. Luke's background, all that stuff.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why Luke is doing this podcast.
Oh, he's wanting another...
He wants another Year in the Life kind of thing.
Yeah, so Kiko is not that musically inclined as her counterpart Lane, interesting enough.
However, I do know one thing that I've read on my own.
I'm getting that.
But I know you're getting there.
And Kiko said she likes the spin doctors, and Lane would never
like the spin doctor.
So that's her guilty pleasure there. But they wouldn't agree on that. Scott and Kiko couldn't figure out what the deal was with Miss Kim's fear, and I attributed that to
fear
her.
What?
You know, of Lane in a small town. Why was she so fearful of her, of negative influences?
I think that was Mrs. Kim's. I mean, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but
I agree with you totally.
I think it's Mrs. Kim's upbringing.
But she's extremely religious. We find out.
Well, number one, she's got that strict upbringing that she was raised with her own mother. Coming from Korea and
making a new life. She's
determined. I don't pretend to know what Korean life is like.
Well,
but we do meet that mother at some point in the future, and just by that interaction that you see there, you can totally see how Mrs. Kim grew up to be the way she is.
Kim's got quite the rebellious spirit in her too, though.
Well, she broke away and became a Christian.
Yeah, so she's all about that. She's extremely religious. That's what I think. Luke, that's her deal. If you're listening to this, that's her deal.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know that because you kind of didn't know what her deal was. Thought I'd help you out. Kiko said if she played the role today, she speculated that she would have a secret internet life with numerous friends, like Instagram following, and she wouldn't be isolated in a small town. She said it was more fun to play it the way they played it on the show. Yeah. She was isolated. She was Team Jess.
Really?
Yeah. She said that because Dean wasn't right for her.
Okay.
And that once Jess matured, he would be perfect. And we agree on that.
Do we?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying whose team I'm on. I do agree with their statement.
No, we agree that if he matured, he wasn't ready.
No. Yeah. No, Lord, no.
But we're not saying Jess is the right one.
We're not just declaring who we're for.
If he was, he would have to mature.
Yes.
Because he was a little of a snot when he was.
He was, yeah. Yeah, he definitely was.
We'll get to that. But
not a good boyfriend.
Yeah, she loved learning the drums. And is that what you were going to mention?
That was what I was going to say, that I did read an article where she did say that she actually learned to play the drums for the role.
And Sebastian Bach from Skid Row,
who played Gil in the band,
he even complimented her one time and said, "You have a nice floor on the floor there."
Hey, that's a high compliment coming from them.
Yeah. And might I just say that he never seems to age. He must be a vampire.
Oh my gosh, no, he doesn't. Even when he came back in A Year in the Life, I expected him to look like 80 years old.
Well, I saw him.
He didn't. He hardly looked any different.
I saw him in concert back in the day, so he looks the same to me.
Yeah.
But and they got to talking about.
Of course, we are talking about characters that you don't know yet, that we have not introduced yet.
This is all Scott's podcast, so it's free range here, people. Kiko went on to talk about her counterpart, Emily Crota, Miss Kim, the mother. She is totally not like her character at all.
She said she is sweet as can be.
And what you would find fascinating is she's a big tech head. So
that is something I didn't know. That's interesting.
And Miss Kim would never let her get into the devil's playground there. but I'm just gonna say that. So then we move on to.
That sounds like it was an interesting interview.
Oh yeah, it was. She's fascinating. We move on to the next episode 8. I'll get you some coffee.
So that's where he's talking about this episode.
Yes,
that we just watched.
And interesting enough, he interviews Kiko's Lane's obsession, Rich Bloomfeld.
Oh, interesting. Oh wow.
Yeah, played by Chase Penny.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, he didn't have any lines
No?
in the whole show, but his hair played an important part.
Yes, it did.
So we're going to talk about the pomp and circumstance himself.
The luxurious
Yeah.
hair.
Oh, the quaff of hair essence. He had no lines, like I said, but that hair, I bet they insured that hair.
That hair was a dialogue all on
It
its
was
own.
intermixed on the show.
Yes.
It was hard to keep because did you know he was an overall gymnast in his day, in his
No.
younger days, and they had to cut that hair short. They weren't allowed to have hair.
Oh, wow.
So, and he was inspired by Eddie Van Halen. He wanted that hair.
Oh.
Yeah. So when he moved out there, he was surfing. He was a friend of Tom Cruise's stunt double. So
Interesting.
he got a lot of his characteristics from that, you know.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how they like to have bigger guys play, so he couldn't be a stunt double because they want to look bigger on film.
Right.
I will touch on this. On his rapid fire, it was a funny moment. Scott asked Chase, so who's the daddy? And he said, and I quote, I am always the daddy.
Oh. Too funny.
Yeah, he's hilarious. This guy, man. But, yeah.
His hair must have won Rory over at some point off screen.
Yeah.
That would have been too funny.
That's a different
well,
take
who's
on
the
altogether.
dad? Mom, I'm pregnant. Well, who's the father?
You
It's
remember
some
that
guy.
guy?
Remember that guy, Rich
The hair?
Blumenfeld? Yeah.
It was the hair, Mom. I swear, the hair. He had the hair. Yeah.
Because we never see him again in the show.
Yeah, so moving on to get that interview on the same podcast, he had a fan come on. Her name was Chelsea, and they reenacted the whole town hall scene.
Oh my gosh.
So a fan got to actually do lines with Luke.
Oh, that's cool.
Scott Patterson. I keep wanting to say Luke.
How honored must she have felt?
Oh, she was beside herself. And, okay, now this is where we're getting to it. The two ladies on the show with Scott, I don't remember their names offhand, but they were talking about...
We're going to have to remember their names someday.
Yeah, I'll get it together. You know how I'm demented sometimes. They were talking about Linda Carter, because Lorelai does reference Wonder Woman.
And Linda Carter being the original Wonder Woman on the TV show. Black hair, blue eyes, gorgeous lady.
And, let me just tell you.
And we had made mention of her in episode 2, where we thought Lauren Graham would have made a wonderful original Wonder Woman.
I'm getting that because Scott was all about, we have to get, that's a mic drop. We have to get Linda Carter, Linda Carter. And I'm sitting there laughing because I'm saying, you have similar taste to Luke, because we were talking about how she'd make a great Wonder Woman. So, yeah, you're telling on yourself there, Scott. I'm just going, if you're listening to this, yeah, you telling on yourself, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one of the ladies mentioned that Linda Carter was in 1984, the remake Wonder Woman, which personally I think was a travesty, but I already mentioned all this. She said she passed the torch to Gal Gadot, and I was like, no, Linda Carter does not have to pass the torch to anybody.
No.
She's Linda Carter. I agree with Scott on this. There's no other.
It's kind of like, no matter how many men
slam
play
on Gal.
No, of course not. She's a wonderful actress and a beautiful lady. But it's kind of like all the various people who have played Superman over the years. They're all wonderful in the role, but there's never going to be another Christopher Reeve.
Well, it's like Lou Ferrigno in the Hulk when he showed up on the Hulk movie.
Yeah.
He had a cameo, but to me, there's only one Hulk.
Right,
Lou
and there's only one Superman.
There's Christopher Reeve, yes.
There's only one Wonder Woman.
However, you do love you some Smallville.
Oh, yeah, Tom Welling.
Yeah.
But he was always Clark Kent.
Oh, yeah, that is
he
true.
wasn't really Superman until the final episode.
Yeah, that's true.
But, and I hope I didn't give that away to everybody, but who hasn't seen the show.
If you haven't, where have you been, people? Come on now, seriously.
If you have not watched that show, you need to watch that show stat.
But I wanted to bring that up because that was a little topic that we called out way before she mentioned Wonder Woman.
Darn, we're good.
And did we call it Luke Scott loves him some Linda Carter and he loves him some Lorelai?
Yeah.
Just saying.
And some Lauren Graham.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we move on to the therapy session.
Listen to us. This is a married man.
Well,
that we're talking about.
I'm just saying. He likes what he likes. He has a type. Look at his wife.
Kind of makes me want to go. Was his wife have dark hair, blue eyes?
I've done some Gilmore.
Okay.
But similar. Not totally, but similar.
Okay.
You know what you like. You have a type.
Yeah, you do.
And he even said this as much when working with her. So we moved to the last podcast, the therapy session.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, and he had another fan on named Kim. She is a bona fide therapist to analyze this, like the movie, all the dynamics and angst and emotions and intense feelings involved. Scott, Luke Patterson, get your feelings all out on the table. We're going to discuss all this. They touched on Lorelai and how she had arrested emotional development issues, and she would switch her teenage side on as a defense mechanism. It's rooted in various reasons.
Protective instinct.
Yeah, some known, some unknown on both sides. It was really fascinating, actually. They're definitely going to have her back on. Shout out to Kim. You did a good job on that. I really enjoyed that. And that's it.
Awesome. awesome.
Do we want to get into our Lorelines
Absolutely.
and favorites and all the good stuff?
Yeah. So what was your Loreline for this episode?
As I already stated, it's when Lorelai was justifying her actions to Rory. You caught me here with Max. It was the snow. You know how I get. It's like catnip.
I had a hard time this time because there were so many good lines, but I'm also going to give it to Lorelai in one of her lines, which was, I'll get the ark, you get the animals. That one, when I first heard that for the first time, I died laughing.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so funny.
I will give a shout out to Michelle with his buttocks references.
Yes. That is a close second,
Yeah,
I will say.
yeah. Runner up.
So what was your Rory?
How Lorelai handled the whole situation with Lane, it was perfection.
I do like that scene a lot.
I really like that she not only has a mother in Lorelai, but a friend. Even when Rory or Miss Kim's not being what they should be to her, I do appreciate that.
I do
for
too.
Lane.
Now you're making me rethink my Rory.
No, you already picked one. Go for it.
Okay, so...
Don't let me influence you like Scott influences me.
Okay, yeah, I have to get on to him because
Yeah.
he'll listen to Scott's podcast and then next thing you know, he's expressing Scott's views. And I'm like, no. You need to express your own views. Do not be influenced by Scott's views.
Well, I do say I'm like your Luke to your Lorelai, you know. I mean,
that is true, but you have your own views and then you'll change them after
I can be grumpy like Luke, definitely.
Well, that is true. Yeah.
That's my defense.
Well, my
You know what I'm
Rory,
saying?
my Rory for this episode was the scene outside in the evening when it was snowing, before she had run into Max. The reenactors had just passed by them and they were just standing there outside of Luke's talking. And they were walking and then kind of standing in front of Luke's having conversation about snow. And I just thought that there was a really sweet intimacy around them.
Yeah.
At that moment that I really loved. And you could clearly see his feelings for sure. Something building between them that may not be acknowledged or may not be acknowledged soon, but might be acknowledged and grow into the future. Is Luke always going to be too quiet and timid to do what he needs to do to get the woman that he wants? Or is this going to build, you know, the more that he has to put up with seeing her date other people and whatnot? But I don't know. I just love that scene because of the way they were with each other.
Yeah.
What was your Emily?
Dun, dun, dun. I think it had to be when Emily was actually telling Rory about Lorelai's baby dress and how she was giving her a compliment, but then she turns right around and says, Her Highness spilt wine on it the second later, you know. That just ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for my Emily, I will raise you a Her Highness.
Yeah. And see me.
And I will see you a Your Highness, and I will raise you. That entire scene.
I wanted to mention the end too.
Every time that Emily or Richard either said something negative about Lorelai when there was no need to, or they ignore the issue of missing her debutante ball because she got pregnant, and just being so irritated and frustrated with these people that they won't just face what happened and talk it out, and perhaps they could have a relationship with their daughter.
Yeah. I didn't like how they left her just sitting in there.
And I didn't like how they left Rory just sitting in there to take it in.
Yeah.
No explanation for a young, impressionable 16-year-old girl.
She got the point, but...
Of course, but
you could do a little softer.
Yeah.
But that's how they are.
What was your rating for this episode?
It was tough. I give it a 4 out of 5 hollow stars. I loved the town hall meeting. All the scenes in passing. Michelle complaining about snow. Giving it to Lorelai a little bit. Lane's embarrassment about the hair. Gilmore's experiencing frozen pizza was a delight. Kind of counts as a Friday night dinner, you know, for me. But once again, I need more Lorelai-Luke interaction. Not that Max and Lorelai thing. It's okay, but I'm rooting for Luke. I just gotta say that.
Well, I also would give it a 4 out of 5 hollow stars because there were tons of really wonderful one-liners. We got to see pretty much the majority of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Michelle was in it. Suki was in it. Lane had a big part in this episode, and that really kind of tipped it for me. I loved seeing Lane have a big part in an episode.
That was a delight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It really was, and there was something, you know, with meat to it.
Yeah.
That she got to be kind of a central focus of this particular show.
I
really liked it. If it hadn't been
most
for
of
that,
her show, yeah.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for that in there, I might have just given it a 3.
Oh, yeah.
But
well, like
I
we
think
said,
that really
5s
added
are going
to
to
it.
be hard to come by,
Sure.
evidently, for us.
I did like the fact that there was kind of like a quasi Friday night dinner.
That's what I think.
I really
It sort of counts.
I did love the Luke and Lorelai moments because I think that every moment that there is between them helps to build something that I'm hoping will happen eventually.
Yeah, I guess that's why it didn't push me over the top, was his whole disappointment. But that, like, that falls on him.
Right. But I do think that maybe it was good for him to see her with someone else, because
The only saving grace
maybe
is,
he will eventually think to himself, I got to make a move or I'm going to lose any chance with her.
the only saving grace was that Lane did Rory and Mia Solid.
Yes.
And cut it.
Yes.
Stop that in its tracks, you know.
Yes.
Good to go, Lane.
But yeah, this was a really, really good episode, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, rewatchable? Because it has that iconic line.
It was rewatchable for me.
I smell snow.
I smell snow.
I smell more coming.
Yes, I do.
And there might be some surprises on the next episode. There might be something in store.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so get ready to Ready, Set, Stream, Season 1, Episode 9, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.